The year 2021 is a special year for the Philippines. This year, we celebrate the Quincentennial of our Christianity, 500 years since we Filipinos first gazed at the face of Christ. In this video, I would like to share with you the contents of a research paper I made for Loyola School of Theology and some of my reflections on the three Filipino Faces of Christ, the Santo Niño, the Nazareno, and the Cristong Hari. These Filipino Faces of Christ reveal how we Filipinos primarily encounter Christ in our country and how they deepened our knowledge of and love for Christ. I invite you to gaze at these three faces in three separate videos and reflect how each face has affected us and our culture, how they intensified our Christian faith, and how they revealed who we Filipinos are. We also hope to discover what kind of relationship we have with Jesus in our present age with the help of these faces. In philosophy, we learned that in every encounter, something happens to both parties. They are both transformed by the encounter. When Filipinos encountered Christianity, something happened to us and something happened to Christianity. This is what I invite you to do in this reflection, to stare not just on the Filipinos looking at the faces of Christ, but also to what happened to Christianism, especially in our country. Let's begin with the first face of Christ encountered by the Filipinos, the face of the Santo Niño. Philippine society is considered by some sociologists as a nation of children, not only because half of the population are children, but because definitely children are the center and source of vitality, joy, and pride to every Filipino family. Very much like the Jewish people, Filipinos have traditionally recognized children as a gift from God, and conversely, God becomes the gift of children to Filipinos. Children are perhaps the most potent force that brought and are still bringing Filipinos concretely to a participation in the church. Celebrations centered on children like baptism, confirmation, and first communion become occasions for parents, ninongs and ninangs, kuyas and ates, tios and tias, lolos and lolas, and the entire family and clan to once again involve themselves in the life of the church. Patapak, or placing the image of a saint on a child's head for healing and blessing. Panata, a vow to offer one's child in exchange of a prayer granted. And pasasalamat, a thanksgiving for the grace of a child, are also occasions when children bring Filipinos to an encounter with God. Many hours actually in everyday life of a typical Filipino are spent with or in taking care of children. Children actually bring Filipinos face to face with Christ. The longest celebration of Christmas observed in the Philippines from September up until the first weeks of January, it's almost half of the entire year, is another solid, if not the best manifestation of the place occupied by children in the hearts of Filipinos. Christmas, which is usually declared in this country as para sa mga bata or for the children, and dahil sa isang bata, because of a child, is actually a communal celebration of the members of God's family congregated around the humble, helpless child Jesus. We might be wondering why Filipinos have this special fondness for children. I believe that partly this can be explained by the first face of God we gazed upon. Historically, the child is a very significant image of Christianity in the Philippines. It was an image of a child God that first reached the altars of the early Cebuanos 5 centuries ago. I believe that it is God's divine providence and guidance, and not merely human design, that made a group of Magellan bring an image of the Santo Niño in their expedition and decided to introduce Christ as a child to the natives of our country. The cute and gentle face of the Santo Niño is an excellent choice to introduce the face of God, non-threatening and non-intimidating, to a group of natives who, for the first time, will behold the face of the true God. A humble and dependent child immediately became a source of identification and an approachable intermediary of Filipinos to the Father. But aside from such identification with the child Jesus, there are other aspects of the Santo Niño that are worth noting and worth gazing at. Why do Filipinos pray to the Santo Niño? Why do we dance and place an image of the Santo Niño in our business establishments? Actually, the reasons are very basic and at times even mundane. Lourdes Quisumbing mentioned in her work that some Filipinos in the past would pray to the Santo Niño just to have money to buy tuba or fish. What primarily draws us to the Santo Niño is our wish for basic human needs: food, sustenance, and security. Quisumbing, relying on Tenaza's research, shares that the moment Juan Camus found the supposed original image of the Santo Niño given to Reina Juana, there were already a number of legends circulating about the help provided by the Santo Niño to the natives. Quisumbing enumerated some of them as health restored after an illness, easy delivery in childbirth, defense against an impending attack by invaders, protection from fire and disease, rain, and a good harvest after a long drought. We learn to love and value children not only because of their appearance and innocence, but because once in our history, God met us with the face of a child. Let us now look into the positive effects of the Santo Niño in our culture and lives as Filipinos. Filipinos are said to display the natural receptivity of children in many aspects of our culture and life. The hospitality for which Filipinos are known in the world is something very close to how a child naturally reacts and readily relates with strangers. This acceptance of the Santo Niño reveals how Filipinos see themselves, especially in front of the powerful, like a receptive and curious child. The bahala na attitude, widely conceived before as a fatalistic attitude, proves to be a way of Filipinos of taking responsibility, balanced by a continuing trust in the providence of God, similar to a childlike trust. This did not happen by chance, but by a constant encounter with children and with a God-child, which transformed us Filipinos into a generally sweet, humble, trusting, and hospitable people. The image of the Santo Niño still says something more profound, which explains more clearly why Filipinos have learned to devote our lives to Christ. The face and image of the Santo Niño is actually a combination of gentleness and power, of simplicity and mystery. It is actually pointing to many aspects of Christology, a simple but sure and effective way of catechizing us. With the image of the Santo Niño, we understood that Christ is not just a child, but a child king, a child God, something which we understood first through an image before we understood it through words. Dindo Rey M. Tesoro's observation points us to this very aspect of the Santo Niño when he wrote, and I quote, "The theme of Christ's universal kingship is closely implicated in the devotion to the divine child. The regal raiment, crown and scepter, and globe in the left hand of the Santo Niño image symbolize a participation in the omnipotent lordship of God over creation, a consequence of the unity of divine and human natures in Jesus. The right hand, raised in blessing, has the index and middle fingers upraised, symbols of the human and divine natures of Christ, while the folded thumb and the last two fingers touch, symbol of the unity of the three persons of the Blessed Trinity. The regal and divine aspects associated with the Santo Niño help to explain why Filipinos turn so confidently to the image for assistance. They go to appeal to Jesus' omnipotence." Close quote. We Filipinos might not be aware of it, but aside from the gentle face of the child Jesus, our consciousness have been taught in a subtle way by the Santo Niño that he is an extraordinary child, a God child, the incarnate second person of the Trinity, the King of the universe, the all-powerful God. This deeper knowledge of and relationship with Christ through the face of the Santo Niño explains well why we Filipinos celebrate the different occasions and fiestas connected with the child Jesus in a very festive way. It explains why we shout "Viva Quincentennial" again and again at the top of our lungs, why we bring with us this devotion wherever we go into the world, why we have his small image in our pockets and in our cars, and his life-size image on our altars. This deepened faith explains why we Filipinos make our panata or vow and offer pasalamat or thanksgiving to the Santo Niño. We Filipino Catholics come in gratitude or make a vow on the basis of utang na loob, again because we believe that the Santo Niño gave us our needs. The Sinulog, a thanksgiving prayer dance depicting the battle won by the Christians over the invading Muslims, and the ritual of patapak, done by placing the image of the Santo Niño on the devotee's head, are undeniably rooted also to favors received and petitions that are sought through the Santo Niño. In some parts of the country, devotees even observe pangayog pasaylo, or plea for forgiveness, an act of authentic conversion, because we have already discovered who the Santo Niño really is, our God who is the only one who can grant us forgiveness. These are all testaments to our belief in the supreme power of God, which we discovered through the face of a child. The journey we Filipinos went through before reaching this far in our knowledge of the child Jesus is not at all smooth. Our love for the Santo Niño, in fact, still needs to be purified in some aspects. But that is part of the journey, part of the 500 years of our struggle and triumph in deciphering what the face of the Santo Niño is trying to convey. Despite the association of miraculous events with the Santo Niño in the past, this devotion did not escape Filipinos' tendency to control or manipulate God. There are historical notes narrating how the early Cebuanos would bring the image of the Santo Niño in a procession to the sea, dip the image to it, and threat to leave him if rain does not come immediately. Although this reveals the faith of the early Cebuanos in the power of the Santo Niño, it also reveals the limitation of the way they related with God, bound by the human experience of relating with a human child. Another challenge in this devotion is the departure from the original image of the Santo Niño. Not all the images of the Santo Niño that we can see today are faithful to the original image enthroned in Cebu. There is a tendency for some Filipinos to make their image of the Santo Niño as unique as possible, dressing it up with different clothes, sometimes depicting different occupations, sometimes making it appear like a well-groomed doll or a real child. It may be an expression of how much we really want Christ to be biologically a member of our families. This obviously reveals the need to educate and catechize some Filipinos about the history and theology behind the Santo Niño and the proper place of images in our Christian faith. Despite these identifiable challenges, the benefits of meeting the Santo Niño far outweighs the negative aspects I have pointed out. Whether we realize these or not, it is obvious that Filipinos, after 500 years, have somehow learned and understood the message of the face and image of the Santo Niño. We understood that we can ask His help in times of need, that we can go to Him to ask for the impossible, that we can glorify Him, dance for Him, shout for Him, thank Him, and ask for His forgiveness, because we understood that He, the Santo Niño, is our divine Lord who incarnated and became a child, all because of His magnanimous love for us. Thank you for watching. In the next videos, we will see how Filipinos would react to the other faces of Christ, and specifically to the wounded and bleeding face of the Nazareno, and to the serene and sincere face of the adult King Christ. Please accompany me as we continually reflect on our faith in this blessed year of our history. Viva Pit Señor! And mabuhay ang Pilipinas!